In the ship's tactical center, Lieutenant Carver analyzes the alien fleet movements with growing concern. "Admiral, they're establishing a perimeter around us. Formation suggests containment rather than immediate engagement." Lai nods, studying the holographic display where dozens of alien vessels move with unsettling synchronization. "They're cautious. Good. That gives us time." She activates the ship-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Lai. Our jump drive malfunction has placed us in first contact territory. All departments initiate protocol emissary." Throughout the massive vessel, seasoned crew members spring into action. Engineers secure sensitive technology behind additional safeguards. The linguistics team powers up the advanced translation matrix. Medical staff prepare quarantine protocols for potential alien biology. Commander Santos approaches the Admiral, her expression grave. Engineering reports the jump drive sustained cascade damage during transit. Chief Engineer Rodriguez estimates 72 hours minimum for repairs, and that's assuming compatible materials, which we won't find in uncharted space. Lai concludes, "Have Rodriguez focus on internal repairs using our existing resources. We'll deal with material compatibility issues if diplomacy fails." On the bridge's main view screen, the alien homeworld comes into sharper focus as the ship's sensors adapt to the unfamiliar atmospheric composition. Sprawling citadels of crystalline architecture dominate the landscape, connected by glowing pathways that pulse with energy. "Beautiful," Santos whispers. "So was Venus, from orbit," Lai responds quietly. "Beauty and hospitality aren't always connected." She gestures to the communications officer. "Any transmissions we can interpret." Lieutenant Park adjusts his headset. "Thousands, Admiral. Their communication network is saturated with signals about our arrival. The translation system is processing patterns, but it needs more time for accuracy." "Time we may not have," Lee murmurs, watching as another group of vessels launches from the planet's surface. She straightens. Decision made. Tactical. Maintain defensive posture but keep weapons powered down. Communications, prepare to broadcast first contact package alpha on all frequencies. Let's introduce ourselves before assumptions harden. Deep within the Valorian High Command Complex, Supreme Tactician Viridian summons his inner council to the strategic chamber. The room's crystalline walls shift from transparent to opaque as classified protocols activate. The vessel appeared without warning. He informs the assembled officials, their iridescent robes shimmering under the ambient light. "Our dimensional sensors detected no approach vector. It simply materialized." Elder Consultant Meritana's third eye dilates with concern. "Impossible. No known species possesses such technology. Yet there it hangs in our sky." Viridian responds, gesturing to the magnified image hovering above the central table. "Initial scans indicate weapons capabilities beyond our frontier fleets. More concerning, their hull composition resists our deep scanning arrays." "A threat assessment?" asks Military Coordinator Jackson. Viridian's skin ripples with chromatic warning patterns. "Maximum potential. The hegemony's stability relies on technological superiority over all subjugated species. This vessel, and whatever civilization built it, represents an existential danger to that paradigm." Meritana rises from her position at the council table. "We must learn their capabilities and intentions before others realize what their arrival could mean." "Agreed," Viridian says. "Deploy Diplomatic Delegation 7. Their empathic abilities will serve our needs. Meanwhile, I want our containment fleet expanded to full perimeter. No communications from this vessel can reach the outer worlds." As the council disperses, Viridian remains, studying the alien ship's strange angles and practical design. So unlike the Valorian's flowing aesthetic, something about its appearance triggers an ancient instinct, a primal recognition of a predator. "What are you?" he whispers to the image. "And why do I feel our 10,000 years of dominance might not survive your arrival?" The Valorian delegation glides through the Retribution's corridors, their movements fluid and graceful despite the unfamiliar environment. Admiral Lai leads them toward the ship's conference room, maintaining a diplomatic smile while cataloging every lingering glance the aliens cast at human technology. "Your vessel is functional," observes the lid Valorian diplomat. Emissary Felix, the universal translator, renders his melodic speech with only slight delays. We had expected more ornamentation from a species capable of such advanced travel. Humans tend to prioritize utility over aesthetics in our deep space vessels. Lai responds carefully. Though I'm sure our artists would find much to admire in your architecture. Behind them, Lieutenant Commander Jackson notes how the Valorian's outer membranes subtly shift color when passing certain sections of the ship, particularly weapons control and engineering access points. His neural implant silently tags these reactions for later analysis. Inside the conference room, refreshments have been arranged. Samples from Earth alongside synthesized approximations of Valorian cuisine, prepared based on preliminary biological scans. The diplomatic team had debated the gesture's risk, but Lai insisted on the human tradition of breaking bread with new contacts. "We regret our unexpected arrival in your territory." Lai begins once all are seated. "Our jump technology is still experimental. We intended a much shorter distance test." Felix's facial appendages ripple in what the human's cultural specialists interpret as skepticism. "Fascinating. Your species has developed interstellar capability without refining its precision. Most unusual." Lieutenant Park, monitoring communications from an adjacent room, switches to a private channel with the Admiral. "Ma'am, our linguistic matrix has deciphered enough of their native language to detect discrepancies. The translator is catching emotional undertones that don't match their diplomatic phrasing." Lai maintains her composed expression. "Emissary Felix, we hope to learn about your civilization, while our engineers repair our vessel. Perhaps an exchange of cultural information would benefit both our peoples." "Certainly." Felix agrees, his secondary eyes briefly connecting with his subordinates. The Valorian hegemony embraces new knowledge. "However, we must insist that your crew remain aboard your vessel. Our worlds maintain strict biological protocols for off-world visitors." "Of course," Lai responds. "We maintain similar precautions." Meanwhile, Engineer Rodriguez crawls through a maintenance shaft 3 decks below, trailing microfilament cables behind her. Sweat beads on her forehead from both exertion and anxiety as she reaches the external sensor array housing. "I'm in position," she whispers into her comm unit. Beginning deployment. With practiced precision, she connects the surveillance drones to the ship's sensor grid, masking their signatures as routine diagnostic pulses. One by one, the microscopic observers activate, adhering to the Valorian ceremonial garments. "Packages delivered," she confirms, transmitting on encrypted Channel 7. Later that evening, after the Valorian delegation departs with promises of continued cooperation, the senior staff assembles in Lai's secure briefing room. The atmosphere is tense as Lieutenant Park activates the holographic display. The drones followed the delegation back to their vessel and transmitted for approximately 40 minutes before detection systems went dark, he explains. "But we captured this." The recording shows Felix addressing a superior officer, his formal diplomatic posture abandoned. The translation overlay provides chilling context. "The vessel's technology is beyond our current assessment capabilities. Their propulsion method alone could destabilize our control of the subjugated worlds if knowledge of it spreads. Containment is the only viable option." The superior's response is equally disturbing. "Extraction of their technology must precede elimination. Prepare infiltration specialists. We require their navigation data, specifically the location of their homeworld." Admiral Lee's expression hardens as the recording ends. So much for diplomatic niceties. She turns to Commander Santos. "How long until we can broadcast a system-wide message that bypasses their communication controls?" 12 hours to map their network vulnerabilities, Santos responds. "But what about the jump drive repairs?" "Continue them," Lai orders. "But I want combat systems at full readiness." The Valorians have chosen the path of this first contact, not us. Her gaze sweeps across her officers, and prepare a detailed briefing on those subjugated worlds they mentioned. I think we need to understand exactly what kind of neighborhood we've jumped into. Lieutenant Commander Jackson leads Telex through dimly lit maintenance corridors to avoid the ship's main surveillance systems. The alien's natural bioluminescence provides just enough light to navigate the narrow passages. Why risk contacting us? Jackson asks, voice low. Your cover within the diplomatic corps must have taken years to establish. Telex's translucent skin pulses with muted colors that the translation software interprets as emotional indicators. Hope is a powerful motivator, Commander. Something we had almost forgotten until your ship appeared. He extends a multi-jointed appendage toward a sealed viewport. Look. Jackson peers through the reinforced glass. From this angle, 3 worlds are visible in the CD Gamma system, each surrounded by the faint shimmer of Valorian control satellites. 8 species across 12 worlds, Telex continues. Each approached differently, each conquered through custom-designed subjugation. My people were scientists and astronomers when the Valorians arrived 4 centuries ago, offering technology to heal our dying sun. His inner membranes flutter in what Jackson recognizes as their equivalent of bitter laughter. The price was merely our expertise and eternal gratitude. By the time we discovered the neural control mechanisms embedded in their gifts, 3 generations had been born into servitude. In Admiral Lee's private quarters, the senior staff reviews Telex's information with growing concern. The alien resistance member projects a 3-dimensional map of the sector, highlighting Valorian control points and resistance strongholds. The hegemony maintains power through isolation, Telex explains. Each subjugated species is told they are the only ones receiving Valorian protection. Contact between worlds is strictly regulated. Knowledge of other rebellions would spark wider resistance. Chief Intelligence Officer Rice leans forward. Yet your resistance networks operate across multiple systems. How? Adaptation. Telex responds, manipulating the holographic display to reveal hidden communication routes. The Valorians created us as specialized labor forces, but never considered we might repurpose their own technology against them. We've developed methods to piggyback our communications through their control networks. Lai studies the detailed map. These resistance cells, how organized are they? How ready for actual conflict? Telex's color shifts to a deeper hue. We've prepared for generations, but always believed liberation would require centuries more of careful planning. Your arrival has accelerated everything. He indicates specific locations across the map. These manufacturing centers could be converted to produce weapons. These agricultural complexes hide trained fighters. These orbital facilities contain potential allies among the worker classes. The briefing continues as Telex outlines centuries of careful resistance planning, now suddenly viable because of the human ship's disruptive presence. When he finishes, a heavy silence falls over the room. Commander Santos breaks it first. This is far beyond our mission parameters. Admiral, first contact protocols explicitly forbid intervention in alien political conflicts. True, Lai acknowledges. But those protocols were written assuming diplomatic situations, not discovering ourselves in the middle of a multi-world oppression scenario. She turns to Engineer Rodriguez. Status of the jump drive. 48 hours minimum. Admiral. And that's if we can source compatible materials for the quantum stabilizers. Lai nods, decision crystallizing in her mind. It seems our options are clear. We can attempt repairs, avoid conflict, and jump away when possible, leaving these worlds to their fate. She gestures toward the holographic display of the subjugated systems. Or we acknowledge that humanity has inadvertently become a catalyst for change in this sector. Telex's translator struggles to interpret his next color pattern. The closest approximation renders as desperate hope. What would you do? He asks simply, if you discovered you held the key to freeing billions from generational enslavement. The question hangs in the air as warning klaxons suddenly blare throughout the ship. Lieutenant Park's voice comes through the comm system with urgent clarity. Admiral, to the bridge. The Valorians are mobilizing their fleet. Defensive positions around every major world. They're isolating us from potential contact with the planetary surfaces. Lai's eyes meet Telex's. It seems the hegemony has made our decision easier. They're moving to offensive posture. She activates ship-wide communications. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for potential hostile engagement. Chief Information Officer Khan's fingers dance across holographic interfaces as streams of alien code cascade through the ship's quantum processors. Behind him, his team works with focused intensity, their faces illuminated by scrolling data patterns. It's elegant, I'll give them that. Khan mutters, isolating a particular sequence. The virus disguises itself as cultural exchange data while establishing nested backdoors into our primary systems. Commander Santos leans closer to the main display. Can we contain it? Already done, Khan responds with professional pride. What's more interesting is what we found buried in its architecture. He gestures, expanding a section of code. This isn't just an infiltration program. It's a complete system override designed specifically for our ship. How is that possible? Santos asks. They had minimal access to our systems. Khan's expression darkens. They've done this before. The code contains adaptive modules designed to interface with multiple technological paradigms. Judging by the architecture variants, they've assimilated technology from at least 5 different civilizations. On the bridge, Admiral Lai receives Khan's report with grim understanding. So the Valorians don't just conquer through political manipulation. They systematically absorb the technological achievements of the species they subjugate. And now they're attempting to do the same to us. Khan confirms through the comlink. But there's an opportunity here, Admiral. Their transmission pathways are temporarily exposed while they await confirmation of successful infiltration. Lai's eyes narrow. Can we respond in kind? Better, Khan replies. We can send our own package directly through their command networks. My team has prepared a specialized data burst containing all the evidence we've gathered about their operations, formatted for compatibility with the communication systems of each subjugated world. A truth bomb, Lai says, understanding immediately. How soon? Ready now, Admiral. But once deployed, there's no hiding our intentions. Lai exchanges glances with her bridge officers, receiving subtle nods of agreement. Execute, Mr. Khan. Let's show the hegemony the consequences of attempting to hack a human military vessel. Throughout the Valorian-controlled system, something unprecedented occurs. Public communication networks suddenly activate on all channels. The carefully maintained barriers between subjugated worlds dissolve as Khan's data package systematically overrides the hegemony's information controls. On 12 worlds simultaneously, billions of beings from 7 different species witnessed the same revelations. Footage of Valorian leadership discussing their methods of conquest, images of the neural control devices implanted in their gifts of technology, and maps showing the true extent of resistance movements across the sector. Most devastatingly, they see the Valorians' own records of harvesting technological innovations from each conquered civilization, while keeping the species isolated from one another, preventing the very cooperation that might have allowed them to resist effectively. In the Valorian High Command Center, Supreme Tactician Viridian watches in horror as centuries of careful control unravel in minutes. Warning indicators flare across status displays as planetary communication networks operate outside authorized parameters for the first time in generations. Impossible, he hisses, skin paling to a sickly white. Their code infiltration specialists have bypassed defenses that took centuries to perfect. His subordinate's voice quavers. Supreme Tactician, we're receiving reports of public gatherings and major population centers across all controlled worlds. Security forces request immediate guidance. Viridian's triple eyes narrow to slits. This is the humans' doing. They've revealed themselves as the threat we assessed them to be. He activates the command channel to the gathered fleets. All vessels converge on the human ship. No more diplomatic pretense. Capture if possible for technology extraction, but destruction is authorized if they resist. The Retribution sensors register the sudden movement of Valorian warships. Admiral Lai watches from the command chair as tactical displays update with incoming vessel trajectories. Battle stations, she orders calmly. It seems the Valorians didn't appreciate our response to their cyber attack. Mr. Chen, power up all defensive systems. Engineer Rodriguez, what's the status of our tactical jump capability? Partially operational. Admiral, comes the reply from engineering. We can manage short-range spatial jumps, but nothing that would get us home. Lai's expression remains composed, but a subtle smile touches her lips. Then let's show them how humans fight when cornered. Prepare Chimera Protocol. Let's give the resistance the opening they've waited centuries to see. The Retribution hangs suspended in space, seemingly vulnerable as Valorian warships close in from all directions. Their organic crystalline hulls gleam with iridescent energy signatures as weapon systems power up. On the bridge, Tactical Officer Chen's fingers move with practiced precision across his console. 23 capital ships and 114 support vessels now in attack formation. Admiral. Their energy signatures suggest weapon systems unlike anything in our database. Lai studies the tactical display with calm intensity. Composition analysis. Based on their movement patterns and energy distribution, the crescent-shaped vessels appear to be their primary attack platforms. The spherical ones likely serve as coordination nodes. Lai nods. Target the lead coordination vessel. Minimum force. Disable their propulsion and communication arrays only. Chen raises an eyebrow. Respectfully, Admiral, we're outnumbered 20-1. Which is why we need to be precise. Lai responds. Telex confirmed their fleet operates through hierarchical command structures. We don't need to destroy them all, just disrupt their ability to coordinate. The comm system activates as a Valorian commander appears on the main view screen. His skin pulses with aggressive color patterns as he speaks. Human vessel, you have violated hegemony security protocols and incited disorder across protected territories. Surrender immediately for processing, or face obliteration. Lai rises from her command chair, meeting the alien's gaze directly. This is Admiral Zhen Lai of the United Earth Ship Retribution. We came to your sector in peace, yet you planned our destruction from the moment of our arrival. We have simply revealed your true nature to those you've subjugated. She pauses. We will not surrender. The Valorian commander's expression shifts to what the translation system interprets as contemptuous disbelief. You have one vessel. We command the most powerful fleet in the sector. Your destruction will serve as an example to those contemplating resistance. Perhaps, Lai acknowledges. But first, a demonstration of why humans shouldn't be underestimated. She cuts the transmission with a slashing gesture. Mr. Chen, activate Chimera Protocol. Engineer Rodriguez, prepare for tactical jump on my mark. Throughout the massive battleship, specialized systems activate as armored panels slide away to reveal previously concealed weapon emplacements. The Retribution's energy signature changes dramatically as power routes through systems that had remained dormant during the diplomatic exchanges. The Valorian fleet launches its first attack. Brilliant blue energy torpedoes streaking toward the human vessel in synchronized waves. Point defense lasers respond with microsecond precision, detonating the projectiles at safe distances and cascading explosions that momentarily obscure the battlefield. Jump drive at ready status. Rodriguez reports from engineering. Coordinates locked for position Alpha. Execute jump, Lai commands. The Retribution vanishes from the center of the Valorian formation, the surrounding space briefly distorting as if reality itself protests the manipulation. An instant later, the massive human vessel reappears directly behind the Valorian command ship. The battleship's main cannons fire with thunderous precision, Not the devastating barrage the Valorians expected, but surgically targeted pulses that disable the alien flagship's propulsion and communication arrays without destroying the vessel. Confusion ripples through the Valorian fleet as their command structure suddenly fragments. Individual ship commanders attempt to compensate, recalibrating their formation to target the Retribution's new position. Too late. The human battleship vanishes again, jumping to position beta above the Valorian formation. This time, its electronic warfare suite activates, broadcasting precisely modulated interference patterns that scramble the aliens' targeting systems. From his crippled flagship, the Valorian commander watches in stunned disbelief as the supposedly primitive human vessel executes maneuvers his tacticians had deemed physically impossible. Centuries of hegemony military doctrine, based on overwhelming force and rigid hierarchical control, crumbles in the face of human adaptability and unconventional tactics. What manner of species are they? He whispers as another coordinated attack fails to connect with the rapidly moving target. On the Retribution's bridge, Li's expression remains focused but determined. Open broadcast on all frequencies, she orders. Let everyone in this sector see what happens when the Valorians face an opponent they didn't design their tactics to defeat. The Retribution's massive hull groans as it enters Telex's homeworld atmosphere, battle scars still glowing from recent combat. Landing thrusters fire in carefully calibrated bursts, compensating for the planet's unfamiliar gravitational patterns. Around the designated landing zone, thousands of beings from Telex's species gather to witness the arrival, their bioluminescent skin creating a living light display visible from orbit. Admiral Li stands at the bridge viewport, watching the alien landscape grow larger. Status of our defensive systems. Shields at 63% capacity. Commander Santos reports. All weapon systems operational, but energy reserves at 47%. We won't survive another extended engagement without significant recharging. Li nods, understanding the precarious position they occupy. And the Valorian fleet. Regrouping at the system's edge. They've lost effective command structure, but intercepts suggest they're establishing new coordination protocols. Intelligence estimates we have approximately 14 hours before they can mount another coordinated assault. As the battleship settles onto the valley floor, massive landing struts compress with hydraulic hisses. The main ramp descends with ceremonial precision, revealing Admiral Li flanked by a small security team and Telex. She takes a moment to absorb the alien landscape. Purple-hued vegetation swaying under twin moons, crystalline formations catching and refracting the light of a distant red sun. First human footsteps on an extrasolar world, Li murmurs, then steps forward onto alien soil. Representatives from the planet's resistance approach cautiously. Unlike Telex, who had adopted Valorian appearance modifications for his infiltration role, these beings display their natural form. Tall, luminescent humanoids with graceful limbs and multifaceted eyes that capture light from multiple spectrums. Their leader, identified as Elder Coralix, performs a formal greeting gesture. For generations, we have dreamed of this moment, meeting beings from beyond Valorian control. That you arrive as warriors who have broken their fleets makes this meeting beyond our most hopeful visions. Inside the Retribution's main hangar bay, transformed into a makeshift conference center, representatives from 3 worlds gather via secure communication channels. The Resistance has moved quickly, taking advantage of the Valorian fleet's disarray to establish direct links between previously isolated planets. Li addresses the assembled aliens, her words translated into multiple languages simultaneously. The Retribution didn't come to your sector seeking conflict, but having witnessed the hegemony's oppression, we cannot simply repair our ship and leave you to face their retribution. Coralix's inner membranes pulse with emotion. What you've already done, revealing the truth across all worlds simultaneously and demonstrating the Valorians can be defeated, has accomplished more than centuries of hidden resistance. Engineer Rodriguez approaches with a data tablet, her expression both excited and concerned. Admiral, we've completed our assessment. The good news, We can repair the jump drive by integrating crystalline components from local technology. The challenge: we need access to specific facilities currently under Valorian control. Lai studies the schematics. How long for the repairs once we acquire these components? 24 hours minimum, Rodriguez answers. And there's another complication. The local resistance reports the Valorians are activating some kind of ancient weapons system called the Purification Grid. Long-range sensors confirm unusual energy signatures of the coordinates they've provided. Telek steps forward, color draining from his translucent skin. If they've activated the grid, they're more desperate than we anticipated. It was constructed centuries ago as a failsafe. If control of a world becomes untenable, they would rather render it uninhabitable than lose it to another power. The assembled representatives fall silent as the implications become clear. The Valorians, facing unprecedented defeat, have chosen to destroy what they cannot control. Lai's expression hardens with resolve. How long until this grid reaches full destructive capacity? 36 hours, Telex responds, almost precisely when your jump drive could be operational again. Lai looks at the gathered representatives of 3 worlds facing extinction. They expect us to run, she says quietly, to save ourselves and abandon you to their vengeance. Her voice strengthens as she continues. They clearly know very little about humanity. Dawn breaks over the Resistance headquarters with colors unfamiliar to human eyes. The red sun casting magenta shadows across crystalline structures as 2 moons fade from the sky. Admiral Lai stands before a gathering unlike any in human history, representatives from 7 different species united by a common cause. The Valorian Purification Grid consists of 17 orbital platforms positioned around key worlds. Lai explains, indicating holographic projections showing the ancient weapons. Each draws power from quantum singularity cores, designed to destabilize a planet's crust when fully charged. Lieutenant Commander Jackson steps forward. Based on Resistance intelligence and our own sensor readings, we've identified critical vulnerabilities in each platform. He highlights specific sections on the holographic model. The power regulation systems weren't designed for rapid activation. Their emergency deployment has created structural weaknesses we can exploit. Engineer Rodriguez gestures to modified schematics. We've repurposed 3 of our shuttlecraft with local technology. Each is now equipped with penetration charges calibrated to the platform's energy signatures. Coralix's luminescent skin pulses with concern. Even with these adaptations, attacking all 17 platforms simultaneously would require more vessels than we possess. Which is why we won't attack them all simultaneously. Lai responds. Operation Thunderstrike will proceed in 3 phases. She activates the tactical display, showing the complex battle plan. Phase 1. Resistance ground forces will seize control of 3 planetary defense stations, allowing us to disable their orbital targeting systems. Telek studies the display. These stations have the heaviest Valorian security presence. Even with the current disruption, breaking through will be challenging. That's why it needs to be your people leading the assault, Jackson explains. Your understanding of Valorian security protocols is essential. My team will provide tactical support and specialized equipment, but this phase depends on local knowledge. Lai continues. Phase 2. While the Valorians respond to the ground assaults, stealth shuttles will approach the 6 primary grid platforms. These are the coordination nodes, neutralize them, and the secondary platforms lose synchronization capability. Rodriguez adds, we've modified the shuttle's propulsion systems with crystalline technology borrowed from your vessels. The Valorian sensors are calibrated to detect conventional drive signatures. These should be effectively invisible until they're right on top of the targets. And Phase 3. Asks a representative from one of the water-dwelling species, their translation device struggling with their bubbling speech patterns. Phase 3 is where the retribution makes its final stand. Lai answers, her voice calm despite the implications. Once your ground forces secure the control stations and our shuttles begin their approach, the Valorians will recognize the pattern of attack. They'll commit everything to stopping us. That's when we'll take the retribution directly against their remaining fleet, Chen explains. Our tactical jumps and electronic countermeasures should keep us alive long enough to draw their full attention away from the shuttles. The assembled aliens fall silent, understanding the sacrifice implied in the plan. Their species had lived under Valorian control for generations, resistance limited to shadow operations and small acts of defiance. Now they faced an opportunity for true liberation, at potentially devastating cost. A tall insectoid being steps forward, translator rendering their clicking speech. You would risk your only means of returning home to free worlds not your own. Admiral Lai meets their compound eyes without hesitation. Where I come from, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We found ourselves in your struggle by accident, but our response to it defines who we are as humans. Throughout the gathered assembly, translator devices struggle to convey the concept, but the meaning transcends language barriers. Across 7 species, a ripple of determination spreads, not just hope, but resolve. We have 30 hours until the grid reaches full power, Lai says, checking the chronometer. Let's make every minute count. 3 days after Operation Thunderstrike, silence hangs over the valley where the Retribution made its historic landing. The gathered representatives from 7 worlds stand in a solemn semicircle, eyes turned skyward where the battle's final moments had played out. Debris from destroyed Valorian vessels and weapons platforms continues to burn through the atmosphere, creating streaks of light across the alien sky. No signal for 72 hours. Telek says quietly, his bioluminescence dimmed in what humans had come to recognize as morning colors. The tracking systems cannot locate the battleship's energy signature. Elder Chronicles places a 3-fingered hand on Telek's shoulder. They knew the risk. Without their sacrifice, none of us would be standing here. The purification grid would have. A junior communications specialist rushes through the crowd, translucent skin pulsing with excitement. Energy signature detected. Orbital Monitoring Station 7 has picked up something. The assembled beings turn their attention to the main display as it flickers to life. Static resolves into a fragmented transmission. UES retribution to Alliance ground control. We are damaged but operational. Life support at minimal capacity. Request. Landing coordinates. Cheers erupt across species boundaries as the battleship's distinctive silhouette appears on tracking systems. The once proud vessel bears little resemblance to its former self. Hull sections exposed to space, makeshift patches covering critical breaches, propulsion systems operating at a fraction of their capacity. As the crippled vessel makes its descent, Chronicles orders medical teams to prepare for potential human casualties. Their biology is different from any of ours. Ensure the synthesis units are programmed with their physiological requirements. The Retribution touches down with none of the precision of its first landing. Landing struts buckle under uneven weight distribution, and emergency stabilizers deploy to prevent the massive ship from toppling. When the main ramp finally descends, the gathered crowd falls silent. Admiral Lai emerges first, supported by Engineer Rodriguez. Both bear visible injuries, Lai's arm in an improvised sling, Rodriguez limping heavily. Behind them comes a mixed group of human crew members and representatives from 3 alien species who had chosen to remain aboard during the final battle. Permission to come ashore, Lai says with formal dignity despite her exhaustion. Again, Chronicles steps forward, attempting the human gesture of a bow. You honor us with your survival, Admiral. When your vessel disappeared after destroying the command platform, we feared the worst. Lai manages a tired smile. We nearly didn't make it. The jump drive overloaded during our escape maneuver. Engineer Rodriguez performed a miracle rerouting power through systems that were never designed to connect. She glances at her chief engineer with undisguised respect. Turns out, the crystalline technology your people developed interfaces with our quantum systems in ways our scientists never imagined possible. 1 month later, the Retribution undergoes extensive repairs in a newly constructed orbital facility. Workers from all 7 Alliance species move across its hull, integrating their unique technologies into the human vessel. What began as emergency battlefield modifications has evolved into deliberate collaborative engineering. In the ship's renovated conference room, representatives gather around a document formally titled The City Accords. Admiral Lai and leaders from each liberated world take turns pressing their signatures or biological identifiers to the agreement establishing the foundations of a new interstellar alliance. When we jumped into your sector, we were explorers who lost our way. Lai addresses the assembly. What we found here was both darkness and incredible courage. The Valorian hegemony believed that keeping species divided was the key to maintaining power. She gestures to the gathered representatives. Together, we've proven that diversity of thought, of biology, of approach is actually our greatest strength. As the Retribution's repaired jump drive powers up for the return journey to Earth, its crew manifest now includes members from each allied species, ambassadors, scientists, and cultural specialists, eager to establish formal relations with humanity. Lai stands on the bridge, watching final preparations for departure. Set course for Earth, she orders. Let's introduce the United Stellar Alliance to the rest of humanity.